Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we are going to be talking all about the Logic of English Essentials program. And so I have taken out all the books, I've taken out all the resources, all the flashcards, all the tiles, everything that is included to do the full and entire Essentials program. And it is a bit confusing, and a lot of you wanted me to make this video to just kind of show you what's all included. And so I hope that is what I'm able to do for you today, and that you are able to get a glimpse and figure out if it is right for your family, right for your kiddos. So let's just hop in and I will share all of my resources with you. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel if you're new here, or welcome back if you've been coming for a while. So like I said, we are going to be talking all about the Logic of English's Essentials program today. And my plan is to take you through kind of an overview of all the resources, to look at what you would need if you wanted to do this with your kiddos, as well as like how the program works, like how do you enter into it? Because I think that is the main area where people get confused. And then I'm going to take you through a full unit to give you a real feel for how the program is set up. So let me just flip the camera around and we will do all of that. All right, so I have it set up for flipping through and showing you all the resources. You should have just seen a clip where I showed the entire set of resources. And yes, it's a lot. And yes, I think you need all of it. And we'll discuss a little bit of that as we go. But I would say Essentials is basically Logic of English's program post phonics. Although you'll see, and I will touch upon the fact that there is kind of a little bit of a reading component. I feel like, especially for my kids, I want them to be at the place where they're reading pretty fluently. For instance, my son is 9 years old in third grade when we started this. Pretty much after he was really getting a handle on reading, we would sit together and he would read early chapter books to me. So we're still sitting and reading, but he's also reading by himself. So that's pretty much the level I wanted him to be at before we started this program. And this program not only, like I said, includes a little bit of reading, which I'll get back to, but mostly, and what drew me to this program, was the spelling. The spelling, grammar, and vocabulary, and then the fact that they're kind of all interwoven together into one program that it kind of piggybacks off each other, if that makes sense. So they're not teaching separate concepts, they're kind of teaching similar concepts from those different major pillars of language arts. And so that is the scope of Essentials. So my plan is to take my son through it. It'll probably take 3-ish years. We started kind of late in his third grade year, so I'm expecting to take 4th grade, 5th grade, and finish out in 6th grade with this program. And the reason is that you loop through this program 3 different times based on the level of your kids. So let me show you the teacher guides. So there are 4 teacher guides that you need, and you need them right away, which took me a little bit to understand. So that's partly why I'm making this video, because once you decide where you're going to start, which we're going to talk about the placement test in just a second. Once you decide where you're going to start, then you start at Unit 1 in either Level A, B, or C, and then you go to Units 8 through 5 in Level A, 16 to 22 in Level A, 23 to 30 in Level A. And then you would loop back to this same teacher's guide and this same set of student worksheets, because there's some worksheets in here that you won't use right away, because see right here it's labeled as a level C worksheet. So the first time you go through it, say you start with level A, the first time you go through this program, you will not use this worksheet. You will not use it the second time. You will use it the third time you go through this units 1 through 7. So you really do need the whole set of textbooks. I wish it wasn't set up that way, but I understand a bit of her reasoning why it's set up that way. It involves some review and bringing it back and touching upon some of the similar concepts at a deeper level, and I do like that, and that does make sense to me as a former educator. So these are the teacher's guides, and I will be taking you through one of these teacher guides. I'm actually going to pick a full unit so you can get a feel for this entire scope of what's being taught in a unit, because then the units have a similar format and setup. So we will do that kind of at the end, but those are the teacher's guides. And then the student guides or the student workbooks are here. And like you saw when I just opened it up there, they are mostly black and white. And honestly, I really like it. They're pretty stripped down. And to me, that really works out. So it gives the kids a little bit of practice. It does involve some review and some repetition and some spiraling. And I really like that, especially when it comes to the spelling list, which we'll discuss when I get to the spelling part. But this is just a little bit of a look inside into what the student guides look like. So those are the workbooks, and they're just a very central part of the program. But so are all the manipulatives. Okay, so when you're first looking at this program, all of these manipulatives will seem overwhelming, and I totally get it. We personally, maybe I personally really do like a flashcard based system. It really helps with memorization. It helps with just retention of the material. And so this is what you need to do the entire program, all 3 levels. And one of the most important set of cards is these basic phonogram flashcards. And so these are your phonograms. And the way Logic of English teaches phonograms is it teaches all the sounds that a phonogram could make, or a unit of sound. And like this unit of sound says these 4 sounds. So u, oo, And so when the kids are practicing, we will practice all 4 of those sounds, and then it does have some help on the back for you as a parent to remember how exactly to say all of those sounds. And I believe there's also some videos online of the creator of the program, Denise Ide, where she goes through the sounds of all of the phonograms. And I will link that all below if I find it, because that is really helpful, and that is really challenging if this isn't a program that you used to teach your kids to read. So the basic phonogram flashcards are really important, and those kind of go with these ones. So these are the game cards, and so these are the phonograms just in game cards, and so that way you can play a lot of different games like Go Fish and various things like that using these cards. And the kids won't be like, do you have an A? They'll say, do you have an a, ah? So they'll be constantly practicing those sounds. So I really do like that. And then it comes to these cards here. So these are advanced phonograms. Actually, let me talk about these. So these are the ones that really don't start coming out until later, until like level B. So this is like jalapeno or fjord. So for instance, there's some of those more advanced, unique phonograms in the English language. And so those are important. I haven't really touched those yet because we are on level A. But then there is these ones, which we use a lot. So far, it's the spelling rules and the grammar cards. I really like these. And so especially some of these spelling rules where they can practice, like English words do not end in I, U, V, or J. And then it gives some examples of how and why that works that way. And when you're going over these spelling rules, it'll sometimes be during your spelling time, but it'll be also during some other lessons as well to really cement some of these rules while you're spelling. So those are helpful while a student is reading, but it's even more helpful while they're learning to spell, which is really what comes after a solid phonics program, is to focus more in on spelling. So I'd say this is kind of central to the Essentials program in my opinion, or maybe it's just because I really needed that for my child. But we also have grammar flashcards. So Essentials also teaches grammar. And again, it teaches it with these flashcards, and it has like a definition. An adjective modifies a noun or a pronoun, and it gives examples on the back. And there are quite a few of these, and you use them throughout the whole program. So for the kind of complete 3 years that you would do this program, you will go through all of these cards. So that really tackles spelling and grammar, but then there's also vocabulary. And the way Logic of English teaches its vocabulary is through these morpheme flashcards, where the phonograms are units of sound, the morphemes are units of meaning, like ER, it means more. And you can see also that on the back, they are labeled based on what level. Level A being blue, level B being green, and level C being this orange color. And so you can see that level C is really shifting into a lot of understanding English words, like really digging into Greek and Latin roots. And so that is a huge part of their program. And you can see this huge chunk of flashcards. And this is just for the first 7 units. So units 1 through 7. And then you can see I haven't even opened these yet, but they came with what I ordered. So these are for the other units. And so by the end of it, you'll have all of these cards that tackle different roots that are important for understanding the English language. And so you can really see how your kids will get just a firm grasp on English, and to do it in a way that really integrates grammar with vocabulary and spelling and reading with all the phonics. To me, it makes a lot of sense. And so those are important resources. And then you also have these game tiles. And this is just for sometimes if you just want to play around with words in a different way. And it'll pull out some phonics game tiles. And so I have them here in a big baggie. And then you also have some other important resources. Most of these are quick reference guides, which actually are quite handy. One here is your steps for spelling analysis, which I will get to when I talk about the spelling section, because this is key. This is probably what tipped me over into picking this program. But then you also have a quick reference for all the different phonograms, as well as all the different spelling rules. So here's the spelling rules. So if like a word is spelled a certain way and you're not quite sure what the rule is, you can pull out this without having to dig through all the cards. And same for your grammar rules, is it'll help you kind of pull this out, or your kids pull it out if they need it. And then the Essentials program also uses a spelling journal, which I really like. So having a struggling speller, it is hard for him sometimes to remember why certain words are spelled a certain way, especially if they sound the same. Sounds like k, k, k. And they'll give you the rules as to when to use them. And so when we come across certain words, or when we're prompted in the teacher's guide, we can add those words to a list. And he can add more words to this. So if he has some words that are a little bit tricky as to why they say a long E or something like that, and there's so many different options for how English spells the long E sound, I feel like the more it's used, the more they'll see some of these words, and it'll just really help them out. And so that is a spelling journal. And so I got one for each of my older kids. So like I said, my son is already using this program, and he will continue to use it in 4th grade. And then I got another copy for my daughter, who will be in 3rd grade next year. So those are some of the extra resources and kind of how they work within the program. Okay, the other 2 aspects of this program, I'm just going to pop up pictures to let you know about them. So like I said, Essentials also includes like multi-level reading. A lot of that is just pulling in the phonics, but they also do have a product called the Essential Reader. And you will see in your teacher's guides times when it will have the optional Essentials Reader. So this is really encouraged for really all students. So all students could use this, especially struggling readers. So ones who have maybe exited their phonics program, whether it be the Logic of English Foundations program or a different phonics program, and they still need significant help with reading. There is a whole reader that will only follow the phonograms as they're being taught. And so it's really helpful. It also includes comprehension questions as well as some writing prompts. We decided not to use that because I have a different program that I love and I use for those 2 aspects, for readers as well as composition. So for us, we didn't need it, but it did look like a really solid program. And especially if you don't have those additional programs, I also want to talk a little bit about the online option. So Logic of English has an online option. And to my knowledge, it is everything needed. It basically is Denise Ide. Like I said, she's the creator of the program. And I believe she takes you through all of the different units and she teaches it all. So like if there's a review, she'll take the students through the review. But as for what you need resource-wise, I'm not sure. I'm not the right person because we decided not to go with that. And so that is a huge asset if you are interested in an online option. So I'll link that down below as well. Just know I can't really speak to it because we're not using it. But those are all the resources. And so next I want to talk about how the program works and how to get started. So the best place to start is the placement test, and you can find that in the teacher's guide for units 1 through 7. You can also find it online. I think I just searched for it and it popped right up and you can print it out. And I liked that because then I was able to write on it and keep it for our records as to where we were when we started the program. So this is great. So this is the placement test, and it takes you through some key parts. So phonemic awareness, reading the sounds A to Z, handwriting, reading words, as well as spelling. And here's the reading words for the placement test. And so you'll walk through this with your students and you'll be marking off if they were able to read these words, if they were able to spell these words, and then it gives you guidance. But the spelling portion is really what I was most interested in. And because of the spelling portion, that's what led us to use level A. But I'm not going to talk too much about our personal experience in this video. I want it to be more just resource heavy. And I have a video coming in a couple of weeks where I just talk all about our story, what led us to the Essentials program and everything. So stay tuned for that, and I'll link it down below once I upload it. This is very useful, especially if you don't come from Logic of English Foundations, but even if you do, honestly, every child is unique. And so being able to take the placement test and to figure out what level you're going to start at is very helpful. So once you have done that, then, like I said, you will be following these lessons based on your level. And like I said, there's level A, B, and C. And I really can't speak to, like, is level A supposed to be 3rd grade? Can it be 2nd grade? Can it be 4th grade? I'm not sure. I think it's just based on what your child needs and where they're placed. And then you can just work your way through the program. So what I want to do next is take you through a unit. So like I said, you have 4 teacher's guides, and each of the teacher's guides has a set of units. And each of the units has 5 parts, and each of these parts are really pretty consistent. Like part 2 is always spelling, for instance. What I want to do is I'm going to take you maybe through something in the middle. We'll just do lesson 16. What I'll do is I'll go through level B. So this is pretty much smack in the middle of the whole Essentials program if you start at level A. But the important part here is I really want to show you how to make sense of this teacher's guide and how to use it with your students. So to get into Unit 16, it always starts with a big overview of, like, if there's any new phonograms that are being introduced. And here it's like for level C, you actually have an extra advanced phonogram also that they're going to be working through. You have which spelling rules are they going to be talking about, as well as, for instance, maybe the short U in the spelling journal. So let's just start. So here it says part 1, essential concepts. So I feel like part 1 is very important, and it's often the longest part. So you can see I'm flipping through a lot of pages here, and now I get to part 2. So essential concepts will introduce phonograms and spelling rules for the week. So this is probably one of the most crucial aspects of the unit. And so I'll just take you through this. So it always gives you materials, what you should pull out, which phonogram flashcards you should pull out, game tiles it says, as well as some spelling rule flashcards, and some extra stuff if you are doing level C. So always pay attention to these boxes on the sides because they'll give extra information, especially for levels B and C. So let's just take through part 1. So you see first here, so that says all. What that means is all levels. Level A, B, and C are all doing this first part. So what that means is also level B and C, it's a review. They've gone through this before, but you'll see it adds in some extra depth as they go. And so it's talking about going through these flashcards, talking about if they're vowels and consonants. So some really basic information for the kids, especially if, say, they're already in level B or C. You get here and it has this picture here, which basically means you need to pull out your student workbook. And so right here, it says read the base word and underline the phonogram. So some of this will be pretty straightforward. If you're doing level A, it might take a little longer. Level C, this should probably be really pretty quick. And so they'll do that and then work through some more phonograms. And there's always some teacher tips to pay attention to. I really do appreciate these. And then it gets into level C. So you see here, it changed the color to this orange color, which indicates level C. And in level C, they are doing an additional phonogram, an advanced phonogram. And they also have 1, 2, 3 extra worksheets for that. And the worksheets will be labeled Level C. So these are worksheets that only the Level C students will be doing for that extra advanced phonogram. So then you keep going, and it says down here all again for phonogram flashcards, and it asks to drill the phonograms with flashcards. And it even gives you a little teacher's tip, drilling phonograms. In the phonogram drills, sometimes asks the students to say only the phonogram sounds. Other times, drill both the sounds and associated hints or rules. So you can kind of do it different ways depending on where your child is, and that way you can keep it from being super repetitive. But okay, to move on, we're still in part 1. And again, this is all. So now they did the phonograms. Now the program's going to enter into the spelling rules section. And this is the rule 12.1. The vowel says its long sound because of the E. And there's a lot of practice. And again, another workbook page. And so a lot of times with this first part, I split it into 2 days. It really is up to you and what works best for your kids and where they're at. But here's this workbook page that's indicated after talking through that spelling rule. And then again, another all section, exploring sounds, reasons for a vowel to say its long sound. And now you have 1, 2, 3 different spelling rules that have to do with saying its long sound. So what I like about this is it's pulling back some of these old ones. Like this was covered earlier, like unit 2 or unit 3, it's A, E, O, and U usually say their long sound at the end of a syllable. So the kids should know this. And so this is review. So they're bringing it back, but they're adding it to kind of a different category. So it's helping stretch the brain and helping the kids learn kind of more dynamically, in my opinion. And so then it gets to another workbook page, and so that's 16.3 here, reasons for the long vowel. And then it gets to an essential reader. So like I said, if you have that, then you continue with this lesson, but it's optional, and so that might not be something that you are doing. All right, so that was just part 1, and it has to do with really introducing new phonograms as well as new spelling rules. And then you get into day 2, which is called building words. This is a lot of spelling. So the first thing that happens here is a review, which I think is really helpful. This section is really good, especially if your kids are new to Logic of English, if they're a little bit on the struggling side, or if they've been doing it for a while. It's still really good to bring that spiral review in. And so this is a way to review phonograms, phonogram basketball, and you're reviewing some of the grammar rules that have been learned in the past. So I'm not sure when the students learned about quotes, but they're reviewing that, and then some spelling rules. So it says, say a word, ask them to write it with the tiles. Oftentimes I just use a marker and the whiteboard, and explain the reason for the long vowel. So remember there's 3 different rules they could use, and so they'd have to go through that. And then there's this spelling journal. So they can bring back out their journal, and it talks through the short U sound. So it's either in the middle of a syllable and it just uses the single U, or it's OU. It says may not be used at the end of English words. Use in the middle of a syllable, like cousin, young, jealous, famous, those words. And so this will be brought in to kind of further reinforce some of those lessons. And then there's the essential reader again. And you will see this is also the day that starts the spelling analysis. All right, so again, like I said, this spelling analysis is really what drew me to this program, but I do have a quick tip for spelling analysis. So Denise Ide, actually on her YouTube channel, which I will link below, she has recorded herself doing the spelling analysis for every unit of every level of essentials. So it can be like Unit 3 Level A, Unit 3 Level C, Unit 16 Level A, whatever it is, they're all there. You can find them, and then she will teach the students. And my son likes that variety, so she will go through this whole process where she'll say the word make, and then she is going to make cookies, make. And then we talk to the students about how many syllables and have them hum or count the syllables under their chin, and then they work on a say to spell. So they'll say like make, or for instance, it is a multi-syllable word like birthday, they'll say birthday. And then the students will say the first syllable, and they'll segment the first syllable, and you'll do some finger spelling Again, it's really helpful to watch some of her teacher trainings, especially on YouTube. That's where I've gotten all my information, and it was really helped me. And you can go through the rest of this where the students then write the word on the board, sounding it out as they write, and then the teacher writes it on the board and they help segment it with the teacher. And then you do some marking, and the marking is really important because it helps the students see, like the IR, that's an R controlled vowel. TH is a multi-letter phonogram. Pointing those aspects out to the kids will help them remember what to use when they're spelling these words. And there's so much help in this teacher's guide, as you can see, to be able to follow this whole system and to say what you need to say to help your students. And then there is the level B as well as the level C lists. And so when you go back through this, you will get new words, even though you will work on similar phonograms, if that makes sense. So I love that, honestly. And next is part 3, and this says words in context. And so this is your grammar day. And so again, there's for everybody there's a big review, and this is a phonogram review, there's a spelling review, and a spelling worksheet to go with that, some spelling rules, and some grammar worksheets. So those are just in the review section. Oh, and I didn't show you this, but this is where the students would write their spelling words, and it's important because then you'll start analyzing the spelling words when you go through grammar, and you'll put parts of speech as well as talk about plural or past tense of those words. And then here's some of those worksheets I was just pointing out that have to do more with the review section. So clearly they are spiraling this program. And then it talks about, again, all. It's going to talk about a suffix rule, adding a suffix to a silent final E words. It teaches all through that. There's some worksheets that go with it. Another worksheet, and you can see it keeps going, teaching through that. Teacher tips, another spelling rule for dropping the silent E when adding a vowel suffix, only if it is allowed by other spelling rules. Optional practice, so I didn't point out there's often optional practice on these pages, and that's really helpful if you need to slow down at all, is it gives you extra things to do so you don't feel like you have to keep rushing through the program if your child is not understanding. And then it gets into making silent final E words plural. And then here is a bit of a grammar review, and then it goes through the nouns, verbs, adjectives, and plural nouns and past tense verbs of all of the words that are on the spelling analysis list for that week. Oh, I guess I showed you level A when I was looking at the words, because like birthdays, it's a plural noun. You're using the same words to look at them a different way, teaching grammar, but you're also kind of revisiting spelling, if that makes sense. So it's not just like writing the list out again and again, you're kind of analyzing and really digging deep into each of these words, which I really like. And then there's on all, where it talks about subject pronouns, and then it gets into an optional spelling analysis of subject pronouns. So they can really get into how to spell them, how to label them, things like that. And now we're still in part 3 of this program. So you can see some of these lessons are rather long. And so then it says identifying parts of speech. In this section, you will be reading a sentence to your child, and you'll be talking about each of the words, and you'll be labeling the words. And then you can see here in the teacher tip, it says for level B, use this sentence, and this sentence, and this sentence. So the ones that are out here are all level A, and then you have the level B and C in the margins, but you do the same thing. And then it ends with a bit of dictation. So again, another way for them to practice their spelling words and to work on just listening, repeating, and writing the words. And then there's an essential reader assignment as well. Okay, so that's the first 3 parts of 5. So the 4th part is words in action. So again, all, and this review is phonograms for dragons, grammar review, spelling review. It says read 5 to 10 words for students to write with the tiles. These are great. They're not necessarily your spelling words. By this point in the program, your students should be able to spell those words. And so it helps them use their skills. And then it gets into vocabulary. And again, it's color-coded for level. So this time I will do level B. So level B vocabulary is the suffix of OUS, like famous, and how that works. And then it goes through this whole lesson on vocabulary. And that's level C. And it ends with another bit of dictation and writing strong sentences. And so here it's 16:14. And basically it's saying, so the boy played a game. So it says, change the gray bold words into pronouns, add an adjective to describe the black bold words. You may think of your own or choose from the list. So it's really just helping them be stronger writers in this assignment. And so there's a variety of ways that this program teaches these things within a unit, which I do like. And then it gets to part 5. And so part 5 is always a check your understanding, or you can see it as an assessment for the week. And the program discusses how to handle assessments really in this first teacher's guide. But what you'll do is you'll go and flip to the assessment in the workbook. And here it says, check your understanding for Unit 16. It says, write the phonograms as your teacher dictates them. So that's the first thing. But if you see here, you're actually doing a little bit of review first. So you will dictate these and they will write it down. And so then there's a section for spelling rules next, and a section for suffixing silent E rules. So there. And then there's a section for dictation, which is all written out here. Again, color coded. And then there's a section for subject pronouns, which is this last page of the check your understanding or the assessment. So you can see you really work with all of these concepts throughout the week, however long it takes you. It may take longer than 5 days to do all of this, but by the time you get to that assessment, the kids should really understand what's going on. And if not, it instructs you as to how to go back and how to practice, when to pause, when to keep going, things like that. So then it goes on to the next unit. So I feel like that's a lot, right? It feels like a lot. If you even look at the number of pages that are included in Unit 16, it's a decent amount of instruction for one unit. So I hope that helps you just really wrap your head around the program, because in the other units, it's set up very similarly. So like I just talked about that strong sentences, that's also at the end of part 4 in Unit 23 or something like that. So it's set up very similarly, but there's enough variation in instruction that I think it helps the kids really learn the material. So I think that is all I wanted to show you in this flip through. I really do hope it was helpful. So let me just flip the camera around and I will end the video. So welcome back, you guys. I hope that was helpful. I hope it wasn't too overwhelming. It can feel like a lot, but I think it's actually very well organized once I was able to wrap my head around it. So I'm hoping that this helped if you were considering this program for your homeschool. And like I said, please stay tuned. In a couple weeks, I plan on making a video that talks more about like our story, what brought us to Logic of English, how is it going so far. I didn't want to combine these videos because I want this just to be a very informational video, and I hope it was. But stay tuned for that, and I will link it in the description box once I actually upload it and everything. So you should be able to find it. But that is what I have. That's what I have for the Essentials program flip through. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully I can answer them. Otherwise, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to, especially if you want to see how Essentials is working for us, because I do monthly updates and I will chat about it kind of in all of those updates. But anyway, thank you guys for stopping by, and I will see you in the next homeschool video. All right, take care.